All right, hey everyone, welcome to Ames, Iowa for week 3 of the college football season, my second week of picks for this season. I'm here obviously for the Oklahoma-Iowa State game that's coming up at 11 a.m. Central Time this weekend. I will include that as the last of my picks, but let's go through some of the other ones going on for this week's games. Last week, I ended up going 7-3, so not too bad, not too great. But we'll see if we can do better this week. It's going to be harder because there's a couple more really good high-quality matchups going this week that will be closer toss-ups than last week. So we'll see how my predictions do. So let's start off with a Thursday night game. So for this week's Thursday night game, I chose Boston College at Wake Forest. The ACC. It's an early afternoon game because of the hurricane coming in. There's a lot of games that either moved or canceled or postponed because of the hurricane this weekend. One of them is this game. 2-0 Boston College, 2-0 Wake Forest, both pretty good teams. I got to see a little bit of Boston College play, and they look pretty impressive. So I'm going to pick Boston College on the road at Wake Forest in my Thursday night matchup. So moving on to some games on Saturday, let's start off with Vanderbilt at Notre Dame. Vanderbilt's another team that probably hasn't gotten a lot of publicity, but they've looked pretty good to this point. They're going to Notre Dame, where they struggled a little bit with Ball State after beating Michigan pretty handily. But because the game is in South Bend, I'm going to go ahead and pick Notre Dame to beat Vanderbilt in that game this weekend. The next game is a matchup between two ranked teams and two fairly highly ranked teams, when number 12 LSU plays at number 7 Auburn in an SEC matchup. This, I think, is going to be a really good game. LSU obviously has a big win over Miami in their belt. Auburn has their win over Washington in their belts. They've already have a couple of high-profile wins. This is going to be a really good game. I'm actually going to pick the upset here. I think LSU is going to go into Auburn and win that game. So LSU over Auburn in a top 12 matchup. The next one is also a ranked matchup when number 17 Boise State travels to number 24 Oklahoma State in Stillwater, Oklahoma. Boise is running for that team of 5 shot in the bowl game, so they have to win this game in order to do that. Will they do it? I don't think so. I think Oklahoma State's going to have too much. I think they're going to go in. It's in Stillwater, so I'm going to pick Oklahoma State over Boise State in that matchup. The next one is a Texas matchup. You have the University of Houston, which is traveling to Texas Tech. And Houston is one of those teams that, although they're not currently ranked, I really think they should be with the way that they just destroyed Arizona last week. And I think, honestly, they're going to do a pretty big number on Texas Tech also. Texas Tech had a big win, but it was against Lamar last week, so that really doesn't count for much. Houston is going to go in. They're going to beat Texas Tech, and they're going to be ranked in the top 25 next week. The next one is another SEC West matchup when you have number 1 Alabama playing at Ole Miss. Ole Miss always seems to have Alabama's number. They're able to play them really close and even pull out some victories, but I don't think that's going to happen this year. Alabama just has too many players on both sides of the ball this year. Usually, their defense steps up, but their offense is really dynamic now too, and that's just going to make them a tough game every single week, and I don't think Ole Miss will have enough to do it. So I'm going to pick Alabama over Ole Miss. The next was another ranked matchup when number 4 Ohio State plays at number 15 TCU. This is going to be the last week that Urban Meyer will not be on the sidelines for Ohio State, but I don't think it's going to matter again. Ohio State has looked really good the first 2 weeks. A lot of people were wondering whether or not they would struggle with Meyer gone, but they haven't at all. And TCU, they struggled in the first half of SMU. They did pull away in the second half pretty convincingly, but I'm just not sure that they're going to have enough to compete with Ohio State for 60 minutes. So I think they will keep it very close for the first half, and then Ohio State will pull away in the second half to win that game. The next one is USC going to Texas. USC is ranked number 22, traveling to Texas. I don't know what to say about Texas. Again, after losing to Maryland, they struggled against Tulsa of all teams. had to just hold them off in the second half. USC is coming off a loss against Stanford, but Stanford's a good team, so you don't really have a lot to feel bad for losing to Stanford. So I think USC is going to go into Texas, and I think USC will beat Texas in Austin. The next game is a Pac-12 matchup. You have number 10 Washington traveling to Utah. Washington's still ranked number 10 right now, even though they lost to Auburn because they kept that game close. Utah's 2-0. They're playing at home. I'm going to actually go for the upset here and say that Utah will beat Washington at home and pretty much knock Washington out of the playoff race this week. And then finally, the 10th game of the week is the game I'll be attending this week, number 5, Oklahoma at Iowa State. I have to be honest, I was surprised at the outcome of the Iowa State-Iowa game match last week. I did pick Iowa State to win that game, so when Iowa won, that surprised me a little bit. Maybe it was because they didn't have a first game. Their first game was canceled. 2-0 Oklahoma at 0-1 Iowa State. I'm going to have to go with 2-0 Oklahoma to get the third win this week at Iowa State. I think it's going to be a tale where Iowa State will compete for a half, and then Oklahoma will pull away in the second half, especially if Iowa State's quarterback is out as he's scheduled to be. Anderson might be out for the season of Oklahoma, but you have Trey Sermon and a Pledger in the backfield to help lessen the blow of losing Oklahoma's running back. And Kyler Murray has looked really good the last couple weeks, starting to get a little bit Heisman buzz. I still think it's way too early to put him in that conversation yet, but Oklahoma will beat Iowa State in Ames this week, and I will be at that game, and we'll show you some pictures of the stadium and various areas of the Iowa State campus in Ames from my visit throughout the week on my website, cfbroadtrip.com. Feel free to visit there. I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Follow me on all those places to see my highlights of all my trips as I go across the country as I lock out stadium number 2 this weekend in Ames. So have a great week, everyone. Enjoy some football, and we'll talk to you next week.